Hello everybody and welcome to the Tom Colohue Twitter, Twitch, YouTube channels, wherever you can find the good stuff, because we are live today with a live version of Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure featuring myself, Tom Colohue, in the nice drab backdrop as you can see here, and over to my side, that side, featuring Nick Barbati of PWTorch and Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure in all of the colour. Today we are previewing and making predictions for WrestleMania. Nick, Twitter, Twitch, how are you? And welcome to the show.
How long is this intro going to be? It's going to be longer than WrestleMania Night 1. You talk about yourself way too much. These people come here for information and instead you're vamping and doing all kinds. Tom, get to the point. We're here for a reason. This is it. This is the weekend. Enough of the Tom shenanigans.
Tomfoolery was right there. It was right there. And you went with Tom shenanigans.
Tom, I'm just distracted by the hair that you have going on today. All over your face and the top of your head. I mean, none of it is enjoyable.
Well, now you've just ruined my intended shave. Now you've just given it all away. How dare you?
Okay.
How the devil dare you? So we're going to jump into WrestleMania, give our predictions for the show, what we expect to happen. We're going to aim to go for about an hour, but there are a lot of matches on the card, so please bear with us, and we will be trying to answer any questions that come in, but this is not an Ask Me Anything show as is usual. There are, after all, quite a lot of matches to get through. Hello, Ed. Thank you for remembering me second on my own show. Thank you kindly. So welcome, everyone. Nick, I want to start with what I'm expecting and what is rumoured to open night one of WrestleMania. And a match that I was kind of hoping would end up being the main event of night one of WrestleMania, but we are where we are. That, of course, is the Raw Women's Championship match between Bianca Bel-air and Becky Lynch. Firstly, what have you made of the build to this one?
I think it's actually been a great build. And, you know, I don't think it's the type of build that is main event of WrestleMania. However, having said that, you know, we all look back at the Sasha Banks-Bianca Belair match as being very WrestleMania worthy, when indeed it was not, if you looked at just the build for leading into that match. So that the build is beside the point in many ways. I think this is a great match to start the show. Now, I say that because, Tom, I hadn't heard that that's a rumor, but it's certainly an idea I've been pushing on our show.
It is.
Because I think it's the right place to start. It's almost like you start where the last one ended. I don't think you have WrestleMania end the same way, and I also don't think you have WrestleMania end with Bianca Belair losing. So how do you keep the energy in the room at the highest level? Also, even when you're indeed giving a match that result that seems obvious and predictable and well fitting, I think you have it go first. And I love the idea of a great big match being up front and first. I think that Bianca is bringing out the best in Becky, and I also think, in general, Bianca is really in a great spot in terms of there are times when you see someone be pushed so much over the course of an entire year at this point, year and months, year and change, and think, oh, this is just getting too much. She doesn't feel that way. So I think we are in a good place for Bianca to be successful and win at WrestleMania. It's the right way to start off night one. Still surprised that it is on night one and the same card as Flair versus Rousey, but I think it's going to be a good way to start off the show. And by having such a distinct separation between the two women's matches will kind of lessen that blow of any resentment that could be created.
I'd agree with all of that. Particularly, I want to focus on Bianca being very well used in the last year or so. Her championship reign wasn't so long that it became annoying to have it there as long as it was. It lasted until SummerSlam, and then the story started with Becky. She's been in and around the Four Horsewomen, or at least three of them, for quite a while, and quite a lot of focus on that. But then they allowed her to sort of fade into the background just a little bit. Yeah. Just enough for me so that people actually start to miss her, start to wonder where she is. And that, for me, was just long enough to bring her back the way that they did. She certainly earned her stripes, certainly earned her place, and I think Bianca versus Becky makes a lot of sense. I also completely agree. It's a great way to start the show. I think back to, I think I mentioned it many times on the show on PWTorch, Royal Rumble 2019. We opened with Becky versus Asuka in a Smackdown Championship match. That was a great way to start the show. And for a big show, you want to start with some big names. And I think Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair is perfect. Also agree, of course, on Bianca Belair winning the championship. That just makes perfect sense to me. Not at all surprising as a concept. And I feel Becky Lynch's championship reign, even if you don't factor in her championship reign before she left to have a child, was starting to wear on the fans. And I think this particular heel turn, this particular title reign, the best thing that they can do is to cut it short at WrestleMania and say, we had a great run. Let's have Becky fade into the background a little bit this time so that we can start missing her as well. You are currently watching Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure. This is a free sample here on the Tom Colohue channels, while this will be put into the PWTorch VIP section every single week, usually on Saturdays. Next match I want to talk about is one of those celebrity matches that WrestleMania is made of. A match that I basically forgot was going to happen until today, doing the research over the last hour or so, just to prime myself ready for this show. And that is the Mysterios, Rey and Dominic, against Logan Paul and The Miz. Now, this time last year at WrestleMania, The Miz was also in a tag match, but he was with John Morrison against Bad Bunny and Damian Priest, so the celebrity was on the other side. Bad Bunny did feature at the Royal Rumble, doesn't look like featuring at WrestleMania, so instead they've got Logan Paul, who has featured on several occasions, previously with Sami Zayn, who's working with a different celebrity now because Logan Paul was a factor in the Sami Zayn-Kevin Owens match this time last year. As regards Logan Paul, do you see him picking up a win in his first WrestleMania match?
Well, I see him picking up neither a win nor a loss because he'll be involved in neither. I think what we're going to see is a couple things. WrestleMania, never forget, is indeed the show for the casuals. And Rey Mysterio will eternally still be the legend that still looks like the legend that people remember him to be for the most part. And if you're someone who just tunes in for WrestleMania, it's very cool to see Rey win, and in this case, see Rey with his son, which, I think as people are retuning back in after, the COVID and really getting probably seeing huge gaps in between seeing Dominic's evolution, I think they're going to be relatively happy with what they see. I think the intent of this is to see the Mysterios defeat The Miz. I don't think Logan Paul necessarily will be involved in a pinfall or a submission or in that kind of capacity. I think you could stand to see The Miz and Logan fall out in the middle of the match and Logan leave Miz to the wolves. But I think that either way, we're going to be seeing the Mysterios triumphant and Logan Paul. Usually when there's a celebrity involved in the match, you can anticipate whether the win is going to happen, which probably more likely than not is the case. This one feels more obvious than not that it's a loss. And it's meant for Miz to be the overacting loser, if you know what I mean.
I would agree with that as well. I think Logan Paul is probably going to have a very similar route to Mike Tyson many, many years back, whereas the match ends, he looks down at The Miz like, what are you doing? The Miz blames him and then he gets punched in the face. I can definitely see that being the way it's going, with the hope that the crowd would pop for Logan Paul. Don't know if that's necessarily going to happen, but that's certainly something I can see the WWE pushing for. Logan Paul, for me, I don't know if he can wrestle. I'm excited to see whether he can or not, but certainly he's at least done the work for several other different things that we didn't expect much from him in, that of course being boxing at least recently. We'll see what he can actually deliver, but if he's half as good as a Pat McAfee or a Bad Bunny, I'll be excited. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be. For me, the match is all about the Mysterios. Much like you say, I very much expect this to be the spectacle. For the casuals, you've got Logan Paul fans tuning in. You've got old school wrestling fans tuning in for Rey Mysterio. And for the more modern day, you've got The Miz. Everything comes together very nicely for me. For The Miz to take the loss and to be pinned by, I'm going to go with Dominic. I'm going to say Dominic on this one. While I definitely think the faces are winning, Dominic, I think, is the future that they're planning to start pushing. So it makes sense to me.
And Logan knocks out Miz at the end for good measure.
And Logan knocks out Miz at the end, absolutely. I want to say a quick thank you to everyone who's jumping in and saying hi. Spider Boss is saying hi. Wolfgame is saying this should be fun. Andrew Quinn says hi, Tom. We have a lot of questions about Cody Rhodes. We will be getting to that, I assure you. Jermaine says hi. And of course, Ed says hi as well. Sonic is saying hello, Tom and Nick. Sean is saying hello, Tom and Nick. How are you? I don't think they've got the memo that the show is Nick and Tom's, but it's my show now.
Exactly.
My show now. My show now. If you are currently watching on YouTube, please do remember that you can hit that like button and you can subscribe if you haven't already. That makes a big difference when it comes to the numbers of people watching. We currently have 29 people watching, so thank you very much, everyone.
Tom, when do I start my Twitch or my OnlyFans?
Well, Twitch and OnlyFans are not quite the same thing. I just want to be clear on that one. Please.
Well, I think the people want to see both, right?
If the people want to see it, then OnlyFans is probably the place.
Well, then I need to thrust it at them.
Yeah.
Is that not what they say?
Well, you need to make it Twitch. Ugh.
The Twatch?
I mean, that actually fits perfectly. 2 words melded together and perfectly fit what you're planning to do.
Exactly. Start a whole new streaming platform. Let's go, Tom. What's next?
Next up on the WrestleMania 38 card is Seth Rollins versus TBA. Now, I'm going to start with the mystery. I want to start with the mystery because we don't know who Seth Rollins' opponent is going to be. We don't know. We have no idea. No one has suggested anything. No one's ever heard any suggestion of who Seth Rollins might be facing at WrestleMania. So, Nick, who do you think Seth Rollins might be facing at WrestleMania?
Well, Tom, as you recall, SummerSlam.
Picture it. I remember it happening.
Sasha Banks drops out. Carmella starts strutting ass to the ring, right?
Yes.
Replace Mella Money with Here Comes the Money. Who then introduces Cody Rhodes. All of this talk about Cody Rhodes being a flight risk, Tom, they love that phrase that you coined.
Yeah.
They love, the drama of this. Here's what happens. When you invest upwards of $4 million a year for somebody, and the word is out that they're coming, you still want there to be drama. So you stir up a little drama, Tom. You little whisper, a little gossip. That's how we conduct our lives, right?
Yeah. Get the word out there quietly.
Girl talk.
Talk.
That's how we do that. That's all this is. This is, my friends call this, breeze. Breezing in and out. You say something, it just goes with the wind. Cody Rhodes will be there. It will be an exciting moment for the ages. It will be fun. It'll be oddly cool and oddly good for WWE. That's something people will not have a right to complain about. And honestly, the ending of how this match goes is going to be interesting. I could see it being a non-finish because it just is such a chaotic moment and you want to save it for another day. But for the sake of having a definitive winner for this conversation, it ends with a relatively steamrolling victory for Cody Rhodes, a triumphant return, a backpedaling Seth Rollins, hungry for revenge down the line, and a moment that we talk about for ages. It indeed will not fall apart, as my word of the day is. Indeed. It will not fall apart. Vince McMahon will not let that happen. This is going according to plan, and don't fall for the drama because, quite frankly, that's the intent. Tom, go ahead. Go on.
Oh, no. If anyone has been in the Discord, which many of the viewers at the moment are, they are fully aware that basically everything you've just said, I completely agree with.
I think
this is the perfect moment for a Shane McMahon, and it's very WWE to do so. You've mentioned SummerSlam and how Carmella was involved there. I personally went back to WrestleMania, I think it was 34, John Cena versus The Undertaker, and Elias, who got involved there. Just someone in between. Someone so that the audience at WrestleMania goes, oh, boo, it's not happening, and gets furious. Really just becomes furious at the WWE, who is, of course, the heel of all wrestling federations. It is absolutely perfect in my eyes that Shane McMahon would be involved. Now, personally, I would definitely have him tease a match against Seth Rollins, probably take a bump and then roll out. But then upon rolling out, I would definitely point to Shane McMahon being involved in some capacity with Cody Rhodes. Now, as sort of management, I'm not sure, but it would sure be funny and very enjoyable to have that element involved, even just in his corner every now and then as a reintroduction. Even just on that one-time occasion, I can definitely see Shane being used to further the Cody Rhodes storyline. And this is him doing something for someone else. So in many ways, this could work as an apology on his behalf as well for whatever happened at the Royal Rumble. As regards an actual wrestling match between Cody and Seth, I'm not sure it will be night 1. I still think they'll probably push it back to night 2 in some way. But who knows what's going to happen there. I definitely see Cody Rhodes winning. I definitely see Seth taking the loss at this year's WrestleMania. It just makes the most sense to me. Interestingly, Ed has said, I was just about to ask about Nick's OnlyFans if he has progressed on that.
It's coming.
Oh.
It's coming.
Oh. God damn it. Why?
That's why, Tom.
Why? Why? But also why?
Well, I keep things short because they're a mouthful, you know? What are you going to do? Add music here?
Oh, you shut your mouth.
YouTube
So next up on the WrestleMania Night 1 card, we have a match that I feel will be the first one on which we disagree.
Bro, what?
We have Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin. And I feel in this one, it'll be the first one we disagree on, so I'm going to go ahead and start. I think Baron Corbin's going to pick up the win here. I'm not entirely sure why. I'm not entirely sure how. But between the WWE and between Drew McIntyre possibly being held for his feud with Roman until around September when we have the UK Championship, the UK Premium Live event, I can see him being held to there. So I can see him giving a win at WrestleMania to Baron Corbin, who's got a pretty good record for WrestleMania. Nick, your thoughts?
Yes.
God damn it. I thought we were going to disagree there.
No, you know why, Tom? The Drew McIntyre character is ripe for a major pivot, and it's ripe for him stripping back some of the cartoon. It's ripe for him going. You talk about the Scottish psychopath. It's ripe for him, if not having a full-blown heel turn, having a major edge, and that's created by a loss, a jarring loss. He is not positioned in a way that people are excited for him to be at the top of the card right now. There needs to be a change, and I just think right now there's matches on WrestleMania that almost feel too obvious, and this would be one of them for him to just roll into a victory. I think Happy Corbin has earned this victory, and it's almost good news for him to lose because that's ultimately what you want to see his character do. But when you're looking at who's positioned more strongly and who is overall been a better performer this year, it's probably due for a little bump heading into April. The WWE always takes risks on that one person who maybe you didn't want, but okay, or maybe you did want and they've always wanted to tease, and April seems to be the time period that they do something just different. And this might be Happy Corbin's time. I'm going to go with Happy.
I personally wouldn't be surprised. I am a big fan of Baron Corbin, as many people will be aware. But we have spoken about this before, the idea of the Scottish Warrior versus the Scottish Psychopath. And I just feel completely the same. The Drew McIntyre character is just a bit too happy, a bit too cheerful.
Yeah.
Not seemingly very interested in going after championships, anymore. He just sort of exists in his own little bubble. And I do feel there's a lot more that could be done with that whole character at this point, but I'd like to see him get a little bit angrier, a little bit more intense, a little bit Scottish Psychopath, and a loss does serve that purpose. I would love to see it personally, even if it is just the good old-fashioned distraction on the outside, Madcap Moss getting involved.
Right.
I'm sure they'll find a way to do it. Sai has given us a super chat that is $17.99 in the good old-fashioned UK pounds, saying, Happy Mania Week, everyone. Please accept this super chat to split an Intercontinental takeaway between you both and enjoy the week. Thanks for all you do. Thank you very much.
You got Venmo? I'm counting that. That better not go anywhere.
I am going to be splitting it. Don't you worry. More than happy to, as soon as we work out
save your money.
The way to do that. Because to be blunt, I also still owe you a coffee. Because
you do? For what?
From way back when I decided to bet on Cesaro. Still haven't got you back for that, but I'm remembering.
All right.
Thank you very much, Sai. I do appreciate that. As we've been able to monetize recently on YouTube, that has opened up super chat channel membership options, and the generosity of people so far has been incredible. Thank you very much, Sai. The next match that we have up is the Smackdown Tag Team Championship match. The current Smackdown Tag Team Champions are the Usos, and they will be facing Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs. Who have you got for this one?
I have a championship title change taking place here. I just feel like there seems to be a lot of energy on Nakamura and Boogs right now. And there's something to be said for Roman going into the main event of night 2 weakened. And while, yes, it would be great to have, the parade of champions coming out, leading him, the Warrior, to his great big match, I do think having Roman be a little knocked off his kilter headed into night 2, I think that is a more interesting story to tell. I think the Usos, can win and lose championships without any real disruption to their perception at this rate. And I think that's all well and good. And I think people love Nakamura and Boogs, and you can just hear the music and you can see them celebrating at WrestleMania. To me, if you close your eyes, it seems like an obvious pick, which again also goes back to when we talk about some heel victories, which why I think the Corbin victory makes sense to offset some of this.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with a change.
Once again, I completely agree. I do believe Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs will be taking this one. I think it was very interesting seeing how quickly Shinsuke Nakamura lost the Intercontinental Championship. They've been working these as a tag team for a while now. The background push for Boogs has been pretty much perfect for me. Very low pressure on Boogs' shoulders, but he's been able to get over with the crowd nice and easy on the basis of Nakamura's theme being so recognisable and so fun to sing. I think they have been putting together something very good, and I definitely feel that the Usos' time with the championship should be coming to an end. I feel they've done very well with it. I feel they've been a big help to Roman Reigns and the image there, but I also feel that Roman's been spending more time not coming down to the ring with the Usos. I feel there is slightly more separation now in the bloodline than there was. That may be just down to the fact that they are in separate feuds rather than just all working for Roman. But I do feel there is a bit more separation, and it doesn't make Roman look weaker, but if they can bring them back together with only one championship between them, that certainly does change things. Though, of course, by the end of WrestleMania, there may not only be one championship in that particular grouping. Megan, our stats queen, says, if you need a Scottish psycho, and then waves in our direction because she is Scottish and would like us to know that she is a psycho.
Oh, that's perfect. Should we call the cops?
We have a lot of different people giving us their opinions on who is going to win. We have Sean saying Nakamura and Boogs, Sonic also agreeing on Nakamura and Boogs, and there is plenty more across it. Please do let us know who you think is going to be winning in the chat as well as we go through each match. So next up is the SmackDown Women's Championship match. This is Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey. Now this match card I'm going through is certainly rumoured, not confirmed. But this does put the SmackDown Women's Championship not necessarily in the main event segment, but for the main event match of night 1. So when it comes to Charlotte versus Ronda, I'll go first on this one. I don't think it's a surprise who I'm going to pick. I'm going Ronda Rousey. It just seems like the obvious choice. Charlotte Flair has been the champion for what seems like forever. I would like her to move into something different, try and develop new people. And more than anything, I just don't think that Ronda Rousey would have come back if she wasn't guaranteed that championship pretty much from the off, ready to sit at the very top of the division, taking on people in much the same way she did way back during her time on Raw. Nick, what do you think?
Well, let me back this thing up, Tom.
You're back on OnlyFans again.
I totally disagree with the rumors that this match will not close the show. It 100% will. You want to talk about more distractions that are being sent out our way, which is, hey, how's a way that we not make Flair versus Rousey have resentment on its name heading into the show and have a crowd prepared and ready to rebel. You let them think they're going to have a different ending. That kind of doesn't really make sense. So that is going to be the energy that we are allowed to believe going into the night when magically the KO show takes place 3/4 of the way through the show. And once it's over, we're so happy and elated. We forget that we would have been mad if it wasn't at the end because it ends on a really positive note. Then magically, the last match comes on, and out first, you hear Ronda Rousey come trucking to the ring. Boom, 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 boom. Am I right, Tom? Tell me I'm not.
I like what you're framing here.
You get it. So it's a way of diffusing the anger. And here's the thing. I do disagree with you about one thing. I don't think this has anything to do with Rousey wanting to come back and immediately be in the championship. The problem is when you're dealing with the lack of depth at the top of the women's division. Not saying that there's not depth throughout. There's only so much you can do with Ronda before she eventually has to get the title.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make sense. There's no good reason for her not to beat Charlotte. There's no good reason for Charlotte to win. Therefore, Rousey wins, right?
Yeah.
And that's the way it goes, with a potential stare down at the very end with Becky coming out, Owen Hart style, WrestleMania 10, leering at her.
Okay, that would be a fun way to close WrestleMania.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
I very much like what you put together there. I like that. If we are going to get Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch at next year's WrestleMania, as has been rumoured and reported across the board from many different sources, I think they should start early. I think they should start the build much like they did last year. Not last year, the previous incarnation of Ronda Rousey in the WWE, when her build towards Becky Lynch started in the November, well before WrestleMania actually came around. 5 months of build that had, and then they ended up with a triple threat match instead. So honestly, I definitely feel that Rousey and Becky Lynch should get together in some way, but maybe that should be a Raw after Mania thing.
Well, you know, I'm a little witchy, Tom.
You are a little witchy.
As you know.
I've heard this from you.
You heard it here first. Rousey and Lynch is going to take place at SummerSlam or before, and the WrestleMania match for the women involving Rousey next year will be with Bel-air. That's going to be what it is. Ooh. Mark it down. You heard it here first.
Okay, I will mark it down. Well, I mean,
there's no way WWE has the patience to go to next WrestleMania without Rousey and Lynch. There's no way.
Again, I'm liking what you're putting together. Asai says Rousey and
it doesn't always have to lead to WrestleMania. That's the other thing. Get off of that. That day is gone, people. It is. It's gone. They need a year-long people interested in Peacock.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I'm always interested in the Peacock.
Sai says Rousey and Charlotte could be an interesting dynamic in front of the Mania crowd. Do you think Ronda Rousey is going to get booed or cheered?
No. I think there's an appreciation for both now. And I think, listen, we've seen Charlotte overcome worse crowds. There's no way that Charlotte's not able to turn that crowd. No way whatsoever.
I do agree with you there. With Charlotte in particular, ideally from Survivor Series, there has been a lot more respect. Just a lot more respect for what she does, particularly in that feud with Becky Lynch and onwards. I've still not been able to get over the fact that got over. That's just a very curious quirk of the world that we live in.
I like the comment says, LOL, Bianca versus Ronda isn't money. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, sure. Okay, wrestling. Okay.
The last thing I want to mention, I've put it here in the main event segment based on rumours, but as I say, I like what you're putting together there for earlier in the show. What do you think is going to happen on the KO show segment featuring Stone Cold? I think we're both in agreement here, but I'm going to let you have the floor.
Stunner, beers dumped, kick, punch, couple chair shots, Austin weakened for a minute. Stunners.
Pretty standard. Yeah. It's one of those paint by numbers sections where you think to yourself, I want it to be a paint by number section. I'm happy with it. I think that's exactly what they're going to do, and I think that's exactly what they should do. You don't need to do anything particularly special when it comes to Stone Cold Steve Austin. The fact that he is there will be enough doing his usual thing. But in addition to it, it's the long wait, it's the Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens will not come out of this smelling like roses, as it were, but it's at least an interesting, different system to what he would usually be doing. So I feel this is good for everyone involved. I'd just like to remind people that you're currently watching Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure. We are live today as we do a prediction show for WrestleMania, but you can find us every week on the PWTorch VIP section. You can sign up there at pwtorch.com/govip, pwtorch.com/govip, and you will get us every week and plenty more podcasts in the meantime. As we get into night 2, I want to start with a match that was announced on Raw that was rumoured slightly beforehand, and this is recently returned Bobby Lashley versus Omos. Bobby Lashley versus Omos. Who have you got for this one?
Bobby Lashley was on such an upward trajectory before the injury took him out. And maybe not enough upward to a WrestleMania main event. Maybe, maybe not. But the energy was certainly, in his sails. The wind was in his sails, if you would say. And I just think for me, Bobby Lashley still, despite being much older and being someone who, that we are familiar with, is still someone worth investing in the immediacy right now. And I just think it makes a hell of a lot more sense for Bobby Lashley to stand triumphant. There's still much that can be, gotten out of him being a premier act. And, for him to lose to Omos, it just doesn't ring true to me. I'm always weary of the oversized individuals going much further than just being at the special attraction or mid-card or lower kind of just threat level. Bobby Lashley deserves the win. He will win. Print it. Go.
This is the first one in which we disagree.
All right, well, we're allowed.
We are. I think Omos will be taking this one. I think they can use the fact that Bobby Lashley has just returned from an injury that basically everyone is aware of. I think they can use the fact that he's not at full health and could easily recover from this, I feel, in the weeks to come. But I feel Omos is the darling at the moment. I'm surprised that they're using Omos in this way and not, for example, putting him in the Battle Royal, where he would definitely come out triumphant. But I do feel they're not going to stall his momentum just yet. And I feel if he was going to lose, they might as well not have him on the card at all. So
Did I ever tell you about Lena?
I have not heard that name.
Okay, Lena.
I'm scared.
Did I tell you about my grandfather, Orlando?
I'm very scared. No?
Okay. Orlando had a fake name. He married and he changed his name to Albert.
Okay.
On the wedding certificate, because we don't think he divorced his first wife.
Oh.
So he married Lena. And Lena had a fake name, and we believe her real name was Irene, Tom.
Okay.
And she used to always say bottle instead of bottle. And when you say battle, you remind me of Lena.
Okay.
That's it. She's dead. She died, Tom. Last year. It was a shame. They didn't even call.
It is a very different show when you're
she was
here.
Going. What?
It is a very different show when you're here.
Can you imagine?
Oh.
Just like that.
So we're going to move on to one of your favourites.
How do you find a death certificate?
We're going to move on to one of your favourites. This is RK Bro defending the Raw Tag Team Championships against the Street Profits and the Alpha Academy. Another triple threat.
Alpha.
A lot of confusion in the chat right now, I've got to say. And the Alpha Academy. So these are three very good teams who've been able to deliver very high quality tag team matches over the last few months. And honestly, this could go a lot of different ways for me. I'm genuinely not sure what the end result is going to be. I'm going to go with the Street Profits. Ah, damn it. Once again, I thought we were escaping the lineup here. I'm going to go with the Street Profits. I feel they've been out of the tag scene long enough that they can come in, refresh everything, and it will feel completely new. It gives RK Bro a brand new feud, or at least a feud they haven't been at for a little while yet, and gives us new champions, a refresh at the top, and a tag team with a bit more experience getting the opportunity and going over. They can work with Alpha Academy to warm up. They can work with RK Bro immediately. It just refreshes basically the entire tag scene on Raw. Nick, I feel you may have given the game away there. Who do you have for this one?
RK Bro.
RK Bro. Why RK Bro?
Well, see what happened was, I didn't like your reasoning. I had initially had Street Profits, and I heard you talk, and it annoyed me. And it annoyed me because I realized, as you're saying it, I thought there's enough going on night 2 that there doesn't need to be this change or this disruption. I think that one of the things that a casual viewer would love to watch, there's a couple people in particular they would want to see, and it's going to be Edge and it's going to be Randy Orton.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a good, quick, fun win that can be there with the RKO out of nowhere. And listen, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Street Profits won. It makes sense, but it would also feel almost like a return to normalcy of the tag team division. Nothing really all that exciting. And I think that there's no good reason for Randy Orton to be on the losing end of this match. I think it's an easy make people happy moment. And this isn't game changing. You know, if there's going to be a title change, save it for the Raw after WrestleMania or something else down the line. But I say you take the good, happy win for people and let this be.
I do want to read a comment out from Christoph, who is a regular at the PWTorch VIP section, a regular listener of Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure, saying, I'm hoping for some good wrestling at WrestleMania. For me personally, the card really looks a bit underwhelming in this regard, but I'd love to be wrong. Love you two guys. Good to see you again. And you, Christoph. Thank you very much. If you are currently watching on YouTube, please do remember that you can click like and subscribe if you haven't already, as we continue to build the audience there and grow.
Are you not going to respond to Christoph? What a host. Christoph, you are right, but you're also wrong. Here's the thing. I think this is a card that people look at and you say, yeah, on paper, I've said this to Tom, like, hey, this should be a one-night show. This could be a one-night show, be like a super dope one-night show and strip all the fat and the fixes away from it. I also think this lays in a very interesting possibility where you could have surprisingly great matches all over this thing. You know, there's some WrestleManias where the card is so romanticized, you go into it thinking like every match is going to be a match of the year. But you get to the end and literally none. None are worth even going back to revisiting. This one has a lot of potential. I think the two women's matches, the solo matches in particular, could be exceptional. And someone tells me that Becky and Charlotte are individually going to be on fire trying to make sure those matches do happen. I think the women's tag match could be surprisingly good, especially based on the Smackdown from a few weeks ago. I don't know that these tag matches are going to be all that great, but they'll be fine enough. And never, ever forget that, first of all, AJ Styles versus Edge has great potential there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, like, there's nothing better than big match performers like Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. They got it. WWE's got this one, bud.
As much as anything, I really feel this tag match, the Raw Tag Team Championship match, should be an amazing match as well. There is a lot of quality on this card. Even though some of the matches, maybe with like celebrity appearances, aren't so appealing, there is still the opportunity to surprise us. I still remember being very pleasantly surprised by an AJ Styles Shane McMahon match way back when.
Who is saying that Cody's not coming? What is all this rumor? Who's saying it, Tom?
This was reported by Dave Meltzer over the last few days. I don't believe he's explicitly said that Cody Rhodes isn't coming, but according to people that he has spoken to in his report, Cody Rhodes may not turn up for the match.
What does that even mean?
I don't know.
What does that even mean? Who are you?
I've chosen to basically just ignore it.
That's stupid.
I have a lot of confidence that that's going to happen. Like a lot of confidence that we're going to see Cody.
You know what we call that in Jersey?
What's that?
Well, and I'm not talking about Dave. I'm talking about if Cody showed up. If he didn't show up, you're a clown. You'd be a clown.
Much more polite than I expected. Much more polite.
And you don't think much about Jersey.
But as we're talking about great wrestling matches... What is with this chat?
Everyone's so negative, all angry. What do you, like, groom them to be this way, Tom?
No.
Bitter and angry people.
Accusing me of that.
Pull it together.
Accusing me of that? How dare you? How dare you? But more importantly...
Because it says people are going to boo Ronda very heavily. They don't boo her on SmackDown.
That's true. They don't boo her on SmackDown. We've had this conversation in chat quite a few times. Speaking of great wrestling matches, the next one I want to speak about is Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville, which is guaranteed to be quite the affair. I've got Johnny Knoxville winning this one for a number of reasons. Firstly, I don't believe that Johnny Knoxville is going to be laying down for Sami Zayn, because Sami Zayn is no longer the Intercontinental Champion, so he can take a loss without losing a championship. But more importantly, it's the no DQ element. It's very much the no DQ element for me, which is giving the game away. Because I have absolute confidence that what's going to happen is that Sami Zayn is going to be beaten up by basically every possible member of Jackass who features in the Jackass Forever movie, and then he's going to get pinned, and that's basically going to be it. That seems to be Sami Zayn's role. He seems to be happy with it. All credit to him for that. But honestly, I think that's a spectacle designed all around Jackass, and I don't think it's going to be a great wrestling match, but should be fun if you're a Jackass fan. Nick, your thoughts?
Sami Zayn's going to win. He's going to win with a roll-up, and then he's going to get embarrassed by the Jackass crew so that he still has bragging rights that he defeated him and ignores the fact that he was humiliated at the end. The big babyface guest win will happen when Pat McAfee beats Austin Theory.
which I was going to be coming to next, so let's jump into it as we speak. Pat McAfee and Austin Theory. You believe that Pat McAfee will pick up the win, yeah?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Excuse me?
Why is that?
I mean, I don't know.
It
kind of fits.
He's going for it.
You think not?
I don't. I think Austin Theory.
Well, that's interesting, Tom.
I think with the amount of different merch that's appearing for Vince McMahon, I think he's going back front of camera very soon. And I think the easiest way for him to reintroduce himself is to help Austin Theory pick up the win over Pat McAfee.
That's really... Oh, that's possible? I think not. I think Pat's first real dance on the big stage of the main WWE roster, I think it would be a real fitting, great, quite frankly, maybe even, when they look at Sports Center moments that they try to chase, it ends with him, with a torn wife beater shirt, arms, the whole thing. That fits. Austin Theory, of course, as a heel, I mean, it's amazing how quickly he's gotten to territory where, like, it's almost like Teflon, like, where I think he could jump right back from it. I don't think it would make that much of a difference. And honestly, I don't think he needs the win. No, I'm sticking to how I would see the split happening.
Night 2, we definitely disagree a lot more than Night 1.
Yeah.
And as regards the Cody thing, Megan has clarified, saying Meltzer hinted at it during a prediction show of Denise Salcedo. Denise Salcedo, of course, also hosted our boss Wade Keller quite recently for a prediction show and a news show.
Oh, I did see that. That was very good.
She is very good, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was very, very good. I thought Wade's been doing a great job. The other one, I don't know about.
Who's the other one in this?
No, I mean, I don't know about the other prediction shows. I haven't seen them.
Fair enough. Next up is the Women's Tag Team Championship match. There are 4 corners involved in this, so I've got a little cheat sheet to make sure I include everybody. The champions, Queen Zelina and Carmella in one corner, Naomi and Sasha Banks in another, Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan in a third, and Natalya and Shayna Baszler in the fourth. That is our 4 corners. That is our 8 competitors, and that is lots of different possibilities. This is not tornado tag. This is not a fatal 4-way tag. It is 2 women in the ring at any one time. Lots of tags expected for it. Who do you have winning this one?
I don't anticipate many title changes on night 2. I think this would be a good chance for your girl Liv Morgan to get a fun victory. Mix it up, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan. I think there's some good momentum. I think people have embraced Liv quite a bit over this year. I think Sasha and Naomi seem a bit too obvious as the leaders, and I think Sasha, this visit with her into the women's tag division is nice and all, but she's quickly going to be needed to be an opponent for Charlotte Flair or whatnot.
Yeah.
And I just think this is just a pit stop for her. I think even though Rhea Ripley was already in the tag team division with Nikki Ash, there seems to be there's more of a chemistry, there's more of a possibility with she and Liv working together. And then being able to be a team that goes up against Lena and Carmella and then Natalya and Shayna moving forward, that kind of works for me.
This has been a quite strong and quite quick rebuild of the women's tag division. Now, we've seen Natalya and Shayna Baszler as a team before. I feel confident that we can rule them out as potential winners. When it comes to Queen Zelina and Carmella, there is definite tension in between. It looks like a breakup may be coming there, and I definitely think we can rule them out as winners. That does just leave Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, and honestly, I'm surprised you've gone with referring to Liv Morgan as my girl instead of Rhea Ripley.
No, I said your girl and Liv Morgan. You need to 2 ears, Tom. 2 ears, one mouth. You have 2 ears. Listen more. Talk less.
Well done. Well done on getting your catchphrase in there. The t-shirt's in the mail, I'm sure. I do think that's a possibility, but I'm going to go with Sasha Banks and Naomi. I do agree that it's the obvious choice. I do agree that Sasha Banks is going to be needed pretty quickly after WrestleMania to feud with Charlotte, to feud with Ronda, to feud with the people at the top of SmackDown. But I do feel that Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley will be the first feud that Sasha Banks and Naomi have, and we're going to see a little bit of hot potato with the tag team championships. I think this one will be the win for Sasha and Naomi. I think this is essentially a bit of a reward for Naomi as much as anyone for the work that she's done with Sonya Deville, and also means that she can continue to cross Sonya Deville going forwards. And I do feel that they will continue to rebuild the women's tag team division after a couple of calls from NXT. So for me, it just makes a lot of sense to have Sasha and Naomi at the helm of that, at least briefly.
Okay.
You look so mad about that.
No, I just don't care.
You're so angry. Let's talk about a match that hopefully you do care about, because it should be the show stealer of the weekend. It is Edge versus AJ Styles. The show stealer of the weekend. I said it, I'm not taking it back. Edge versus AJ Styles. Now, we've said a lot about Edge on Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure. If you're planning to go back and listen to any, by all means go back and listen to the ones before WrestleMania last year. We talk a lot about Edge and his trajectory going forwards. I have Edge winning this one. I think Edge has not been very giving when it comes to the feuds that he's had. He won the feud with Randy. He won the feud with Seth. I'm confident he's going to be winning the feud with AJ. I don't see this one going very long, but I do feel that Edge is going to be popping up again in the top championship picture kind of soon-ish. And I feel as much as anything, this feud is basically just to get AJ Styles back to being a face again. And it's done a pretty good job at doing that. A pretty good job at solidifying him. And my hope is that we will see AJ challenging maybe a Roman, maybe a Brock, maybe a Seth for championships in the near future. But for the meantime, this should be a very fun match, a very enjoyable match, a very great spectacle. And honestly, from where I'm sitting, Edge versus AJ, I'll give Edge this one with confidence that AJ is going to come out of this improved with his dynamic and improved with the options available to him. Nick, what do you think?
I disagree on everything that you said. I think it's going to be overly long and not short.
The Edge way, yes.
I think it's going to be underwhelming and not satisfying.
The Edge way, yes.
I think AJ is going to win and Edge will not. And I think that at the end of the day, this will be an easy give back for Edge. And I think it's necessary. I think at some point there has to be some significant losses on Edge's name. And I think that this would be a right one for it. I think AJ is so needed to be at the top of the card, strengthened more so than Edge at this point. I'm going with AJ. There seems to have been this growing build of people wanting AJ to return to form for months now. Back to when we were talking about Royal Rumble, betting lines and all that stuff. And I think it's all leading up to something. And I think AJ at this point, now that he's kind of freed of the baggage of the Omos storyline for that very long time. You know, as much as we're on borrowed time with Edge, we are getting there with AJ as well. And it's time to get there. And I think we will. And I think I have thoughts. That's all I'm going to say. I have thoughts.
You have thoughts. That's all you're going to say is that you have thoughts. I do kind of hope AJ wins. I think Edge will win, but my personal preference, I agree that it's past time for Edge to take a few losses. I think AJ Styles would be a great way to do that. But I would much rather personally see it a bit lower down the card against a Finn Balor, for example, against a Damian Priest and the like as they develop. AJ Styles, though, it depends where he goes next. After all, it really depends on who ends up with both championships as to what options are available, because right now, there is no real WWE champion on Raw. There is no real Raw competitor involved in the championship feud, and quite often Brock Lesnar isn't even there. So people don't really have anything to fight for other than a little bit of pride. Let's get into the main event, because this is the main event of WrestleMania. The one thing we can safely say that we can guarantee will be the very top of the card, because they're calling it the biggest WrestleMania match of all time.
It's stupendous.
They're calling it stupendous. Stupendous. It is the title unification match between the WWE Champion and the Universal Champion, Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. First question I want to ask you. Is this the biggest WrestleMania match of all time?
I don't know, Tom. How many times are you going to ask me this? You ask me it when I'm at, on birthdays. Yep. You ask me it at Christmas. You ask me it at bar mitzvahs. What? How many times are you going to beat me over the head with this question? What difference does it make?
It was only one bar mitzvah. Why are you so stressed out?
I just don't like understand how, like, what? Are you happy if I say any particular answer? You clearly have an answer.
Do I?
You go. You're the one who wants to talk about this.
You're batting this back.
And you're going to say no. I would say that the women was bigger in WrestleMania 35.
I did feel that the WrestleMania 35 triple threat was a bit bigger than that.
I know you. I, like, literally, like, I can hear this in my sleep.
Oh, we've actually mentioned this on Intercontinental Adventure before.
Yeah, I guess, which is why you presenting it as new information is driving me crazy.
We are live and free in front of a new audience of people who may potentially want to tune into those shows and check out what we have said. You'll forgive me if I ask a couple of extra questions,
just said that.
knowing what your answer might be and knowing that it's fun content that people may enjoy. Do you want to try that again?
You're so angry. Ugh.
Ugh.
Disgusting. Is it the biggest WrestleMania match ever? No.
I agree. I do think there are some bigger matches in wrestling history that have meant more. I look at Kofi Mania as an example.
Hogan Andre. Okay, I'm gonna give 5. Okay.
You want to give 5? Go for it.
The noggin. Hogan Andre. Hogan Warrior. Hold on. Sean and Brett at the time.
At the time, yeah, in context.
WrestleMania 12 match,
which was great. Loved it. Match. Amazing.
Hold on. Hang with me. Hogan Rock. That's 4. And then, the other one. That one.
Would you give Hogan Savage the nod?
Absolutely.
Because that's a lot of Hogan, but to be fair, that is how it goes.
Well, because Hogan was, that was a very sustained run. Austin's was interrupted by injury. And also, I have said to you before that Austin was prohibited from me really saying like the Austin Rock stuff because it was really Austin McMahon. I thought which were the even though that wasn't like, that as a match that wasn't the bigger thing. It was still the aura more surrounded the McMahon dynamic. And then Cena had his moment. Cena and Rock, the first one, that was bigger. But yeah, I feel very comfortable with saying it's as high as we're going to get in this generation. How about that one?
We were actually speaking about the Rock and Austin feud earlier on today. I was recording with PWTorch's Frank Pettiani for a look back at WrestleMania 15, and I've got to agree that the feud wasn't about The Rock. He was being built, certainly, but it was all about Austin McMahon. So I do think people have rose-tinted glasses, as it were, there. Ed has also made some suggestions. HBK Taker, WrestleMania 25 and 26. Agrees with Hogan Rock 18. And also suggests TLC 2, which I believe was WrestleMania 17. What did you make of the TLC matches?
They were exciting at the time. They're hard to watch now.
Fair.
Yeah.
A lot of damage being done to a lot of craniums.
Yeah, and also just like, I don't know. It's the watch, there's the drama, the spectacle of it all. It doesn't reach the drama I like personally, but at the time they were fun. There was a time after TLC 2 though that I was just done with them. TLC 2 was great, but when and this isn't a knock to him, but when Jeff didn't do the froggy jump over, that didn't land. You just think like this is stupid.
He was so not happy, and you could tell.
Well, I could understand that, but the risk of that, my goodness.
Yeah. So to pull myself back into line here, the WrestleMania main event this year is Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. Nick, who do you think's taking home both belts?
Brock Lesnar.
Interesting. Why Brock?
I've been thinking about it, Tom.
Okay.
I've been thinking.
Okay.
And I don't know why I think it.
I understand.
But I do think, it could go either way for me. It seems so obvious that this is a second round of a Roman coronation, and that works just fine for me if it is. I love this character of Brock Lesnar. I really, really do. I think at some point the Roman Reigns character is at potential by being damaged by seeming so unbeatable that at some point in this era, I don't know that there's anyone stronger leading on the other side from him, except for maybe, a babyface AJ, who I don't think would defeat him. But I think a heel AJ could defeat a babyface championship Rock, which is why I said I've been thinking. But there's just a lot here. I think. Maybe you have a heel Roman going up against a babyface Cody Rhodes immediately. Okay, that works too. I'm just, for the sake of conversation, let's say that Brock walks away from it. Fun ending. Roman has been conquered. The Roman Empire has fallen. And then the first feud with Cody doesn't need to be for the championship. Go ahead. That's fine. Tom, I don't need you making faces like you have gas at me. I really don't need it right now. I've worked a long day.
What if I really do have gas?
Over there. Keep chirping. Keep chirping.
What if I actually have gas? I don't. You're not going to let me have gas?
Doesn't even know what just happened.
This, unfortunately, is what you get from Intercontinental Adventure. I think it's Roman. I've always thought it's Roman. I would be very surprised if it was anything else. I definitely see Roman taking both championships. I don't know what happens afterwards. I'm hoping, essentially, he abandons the WWE Championship and we get a tournament on Raw, an 8-man tournament. I've been proposing that for a little while and I'm excited by the concept. But it's also very possible, I feel, that he goes into a feud with Seth and a feud with Drew or something and the like. I don't think there's anyone really on SmackDown for him to feud with, so I think this is going to be a Raw feud for a while going forwards, at least until the next draft. But I do feel Roman will be taking both belts, standing over Brock victorious. You've mentioned there a second coronation of Roman. This is, the 6th or 7th coronation of Roman at this point, and either way, we're just getting closer and closer to the point where he just becomes that all-encompassing star that is absolutely unstoppable. I don't think he's losing this Universal Championship, at least until Drew McIntyre takes it, and given that we've got the UK pay-per-view in September, I feel that's the most likely moment at which that will happen, personally. Sean has suggested another contender for biggest WrestleMania matches. We've got 2 suggestions here. Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania 24.
Nope.
And Austin Brett from Mania 13.
Nope.
See, I really liked that one. That was a hell of a match.
Pause. 2 years, Tom. They were fantastic matches. 2 of the best. Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels. I saw someone ask what was my favorite WrestleMania memory. That's it. But you gotta not view it in the retrospect of how were they and how were they presented and how overall are they looked at with memory. Leading into both, Brett and Austin had something to prove because that was not treated as a main event of that match. Like, yes, it had some spark to it, but Brett was angry about where his position of the card was because of the Shawn Michaels injury. Yeah. And, it wasn't, WrestleMania 13 didn't have the heat going into it. Ironically enough, that was the tagline of the show was heat. But for me, when we talk about what's the biggest match, we're not saying what's the best or the best memory. It's what match had the most momentum that felt game-changing going into the show that made people want to watch it. That's how I interpret it. And that simply was not the match. WrestleMania 13 was one of the least watched WrestleManias ever, if not the least watched. So how can it be the biggest match ever? Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels was the most anticipated by the fans that night of WrestleMania 24, but it wasn't even marketed as the top. It was marketed 4th in line on that show after Floyd Mayweather versus The Big Show, Edge versus Undertaker, and then the other triple threat match with Cena, Randy Orton, and was it Big Show, right? Or was there no Triple H? Yeah, Triple H was in there. Yeah, I already said Big Show. So again, not the game changer. It was not the biggest match. Certainly, great moment, the greatest moment according to me. But nope. You understand my reasoning?
No, I do. I completely agree. I like how you phrase it though. The biggest moment according to me. I just like that.
Yeah.
We have been going for about an hour. We've run over all of the matches currently booked for the WrestleMania card. I've been working a lot, man. I've been working a lot. And I've got a lot more to come because we're going to be live streaming all of WrestleMania.
You look tired. You look like you went 10 rounds this time.
It's nearly midnight here, mate. It's nearly midnight. We will be streaming live watch-alongs of both nights of WrestleMania as well as SmackDown, Raw and NXT over the next few days. I want to say a big thank you to Nick for joining me, taking time out of his schedule to be available here so we can record this show today. I'm excited to hear everybody else's predictions. You can, of course, share them here, or you can share them on Twitter if you would like to find us there. You know that my Twitter is at Colohue, that is Colohue. And Nick, if people want more Nick Barbati content, where can they find you?
Well, you know, I'm on the Twitter at Nicholas Barbati, NicholasBarbati, and I'm getting the Twitch, right? You said you're gonna host me, Tom. I'm joining your team.
I'm more than happy to do that. I have no idea what
Nikki's Club.
No idea what shows you're going to be.
What?
No idea what your show is going to be.
Well, hold on. It's a two-pronged approach. Did you ever hear of the sex book? So Madonna in 1992 put out the sex. It was the erotica era, Tom. So she had a CD, and then she had a book. Now the book was a complement to the CD. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a Twitch and then the OnlyFans, and they're both going to be called the Nikki's Club. And the first one is going to be the Twitch is going to be wrestling fans, the Nickies. We're all Nickies. You're a Nikki-ish. You know, Ed's a Nikki. Ed's a definite Nikki. The Stat Queen, Nikki. Nikki all day. Even OK in there, who's got chirpy at me. He's a Nikki. But then the OnlyFans Nikki's Club. Well, let me tell you, Tom, a lot of Nickies doing a lot of things. And Tom, you could be a Nikki.
Well, somebody's getting demonetized today, and that's definitely going to be me. So we're going to wrap it up here. If anyone would like to see more of Nick, you can of course find him on Twitter. You can find our work and of course the recording of this. You can find Nick and Tom's Intercontinental Adventure every week on the PWTorch VIP section. And soon you will be able to see a lot more of Nick because yes, he's starting an OnlyFans apparently. But in the meantime, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has joined us. We will be seeing you again very soon, I am sure. If you are a regular here on the Tom Colohue channels, you know that we will have spoiler warning tomorrow as well as Smackdown and the Hall of Fame show as well. But in the meantime, a big thank you to everyone who has joined us. We shall see you all very soon. I hope everyone has a great day.